Full Disclosure brought to you by InfinityExist.com. I'm Knox, this is Patch, and today we're going over bypassing hotspot access control.
How we're going to do that, we're going to use session stealing, DNS tunnel, ping tunnel.
Let's go get the Starbucks.
Alright, for our first attack, we're going to go over something called session stealing. Basically what it is changing your MAC address to match a MAC address of somebody that's already connected to the network that has paid to use the internet. This allows your network traffic to go through unblocked. There are a couple different ways to find out who is on the network. One would be to do an IP or to do a ping scan. Unfortunately, the network we are on does not allow that, so we're going to use arrow dump to find some users on the network. Just pull up a web browser here after we connect to the network, and you can see that it doesn't allow us to go anywhere. It's asking us to buy their Wi-Fi. I think it costs about $4 for 2 hours, something absurd like that, and we're not going to pay that. Alright, first step is to put our wireless network card into monitor mode. And first we'll put it up, monitor mode, and then we're going to start up arrow dump and see the SSID of that network. And then we're going to specify just traffic for that specific network, just so we can find a user's MAC address for that ATT Wi-Fi. To do that, that's just arrow dump -ng -BSSID, the SSID of that wireless access point, and then your interface. For us, it's our USB. And we'll just wait for some traffic on the network. It's good to pick a station that has some packets flowing, and there's one for us. We're going to use the one that has some good traffic going there. So, alright, now that we've got the MAC address of an active client on the network, we're going to want to change our MAC address to their MAC address. But first we're going to change our wireless network interface back to managed mode. For us, we're having some problems just turning it straight back, so if you're using a USB dongle, the best is just to unplug it and plug it back in. But once you get that back up into managed mode, we're going to use MAC changer. It's just MAC changer -m, the desired MAC address, and then the interface. We want to just put that interface back up, and we can see that our MAC address has been changed. And we're just going to run the wireless assistant to connect back to that ATT network. And show you that using that spoofed MAC address, that gives us access to the internet. Now that we're connected, we're just going to pull up Firefox and go to InfinityExist.com. There you go, working like a charm.
The second method we're going to demonstrate is the DNS tunnel. DNS stands for Domain Name System, and it's a naming system for computers and servers. Basically, it associates a server's domain name with other information like its IP address. Most of the time, paid hotspots do not block traffic between your computer and their DNS server. We can tunnel our internet data through DNS packets to a fake DNS server to bypass the hotspot's access controls. The DNS server that we'll be using is Iodine, and it'll be running on a CentOS computer. You probably could run it on any Linux distribution or even Windows. To install Iodine, just go to its website and download the tarball. Just extract the source code. Alright, and now I'm going to log into root using the su command. And to compile and install the code, just do make and then make install. And Iodine will be installed to user local sbin directory. Iodine's a client, and iodined is the server, which I'm guessing stands for iodine daemon. And that's all you have to do to install it on the server. Let's hop over to the client. For the client, I'll be using Windows just to show you how to install Iodine on a Windows computer. For Iodine to run on Windows, you're going to need to download a few things. You're going to need to download the Windows binaries from the Iodine website. You're also going to need to download a MinGW, which is just GNU software for Windows. And you're also going to have to download OpenVPN. Alright, once you have MinGW installed and OpenVPN, you're going to have to use OpenVPN to create a new tap interface. They provide a batch file to do that for you. Alright. And once it's created, you're going to have to rename it to DNS. As you can see, there's the tap interface right there, and just rename it to DNS, all lowercase. That way, Iodine knows what interface to use. Alright. And here's the binary files that you downloaded. If everything was installed correctly, you should be able to run these and have the DNS tunnel work. Now that we have Iodine installed on our server and client, we want to test it out to make sure everything's working properly. So I'm just going to hop over to the server computer here and start up the Iodine daemon. Iodine-F, that means to keep it in the terminal. And then you want to specify the IP address of the server. And you want to make sure that IP address is not included on any subnet in your network. And then I'm going to put test. And basically what will happen is the DNS tunnel will respond to any DNS packets associated with the test hostname. And then just push enter and input the password that you want to use. And now that the server's running, we can hop over to our other computer and start the client. It's just going to open up the command prompt. Do -F, the IP address of the server. You may notice that this is a public IP address. In the situation that we're in right now, we're not on the same LAN, so we do have to use the public IP address. But you are going to want to test this on your own LAN. Just make it easier to troubleshoot. And then we're going to type in test, press enter, and then enter our password, and it should connect to the server. You can see it's setting up the DNS interface. Gave us 10.0.0.2 IP address, and then basically figures out how much data it can send through the DNS packets. and once it figures out all that, it should be up and running. You can test it by pinging the server at 10.0.0.1, and if you're able to ping the server, the DNS tunnel should be working properly. Alright, now that we know everything's installed right and everything's working, we can set up the DNS tunnel. To be able to do this, you need to have access to a real domain, like Infinisys.com. And our service provider for Infinisys.com, Dreamhost, allows us to create custom DNS records for our subdomains. So what we did is we added the subdomain tunnel, which is a name server that points to server.infinisys.com. And server.infinisys.com has the IP address of our PC running the Iodine server. Basically what this means is any DNS query ending with tunnel.infinisys.com will be delegated to our server.infinisys.com. This way we can send DNS packets from our laptop to the default DNS server, to Dreamhost's DNS server, and then to our PC running Iodine. So this is the basic idea behind the DNS tunnel. The Iodine client running on our laptop will encapsulate our internet traffic into DNS queries. So the DNS packet will have a bunch of encoded data, then .tunnel.infinisys.com, which is sent to the default DNS server, which in this case is the Starbucks DNS server. This DNS server will have information about Infinisys.com. However, it will need to request information from Dreamhost's DNS server about the subdomain tunnel. The Dreamhost DNS server delegates the query to our PC running the Iodine server. The Iodine server will decode this internet traffic, do what it needs to do, and then send back encoded internet traffic to our laptop. And that's how DNS tunneling works. The command that we use to run the Iodine server is idin, the unused IP address 10.0.0.1, and then tunnel.infinisys.com. And that just informs it to only respond to DNS requests ending in tunnel.infinisys.com. Enter your password, and the server's all up and running. Also, if your server's sitting behind a router, you want to make sure you port forward UDP port 53. And another thing, the server needs to be running an open SSH server. For information on how to do that, watch episode 14. Now that the Iodine server is all configured and up and running, we can go to our local hotspot and use DNS tunneling to bypass access controls. Alright, we're at a local hotspot here, and if you open up a browser and try to browse to a web page, you automatically get redirected, and they want you to pay money for internet. So obviously we want to use the DNS tunnel. So the first thing we need to do is make sure that DNS packets aren't blocked. And an easy way to do that is just to ping some website like Infinisys.com. And if you notice on the first line it says Infinisys.com and then the IP address. So that means it went to the DNS server, retrieved Infinisys IP address, and that tells us that DNS queries are not blocked. So now we can use our Iodine client to connect to our DNS tunnel. And the command to do that is just iodine-f tunnel.infinisys.com. And you just enter the password. It sets up the interface. It's doing that auto probing to figure out the maximum size of host name that I can put in a query. Alright, now that's all set up. It's sending DNS queries to our DNS tunnel, and then we can use PuTTY to connect to the SSH server that's running on our server PC. And to do that, we just do 10.0.0.1 and then port 22. And we also want to set up an SSH proxy. That way we can tunnel our internet traffic through the DNS tunnel. Just going to log in here. Apache. Alright. Everything's working. I can go to Firefox now. Go to Options. And then change my network connections. I'm just going to do a manual proxy, delete everything else, and then put localhost for sock host, and port 8000 or whatever port that you use, and push OK. And now I should be able to browse any website through the DNS tunnel. You may notice that it's not the fastest connection in the world, but it is bearable. So there you go. And if we open up Wireshark here, we can see those DNS queries as they go across the wire. You can see all that encoded data in the DNS requests. And that's basically it. The last method that we want to show you is the ping tunnel. Although most hotspots block IMCP packets, it might be still useful to know how to create a ping tunnel. Like the DNS tunnel, we have to set up a server computer. We'll be using CentOS again, and you just need to go to the ping tunnel website and download the tarball. Just download it from freshmeat.net. And just extract it. And to install it on CentOS, we'd need to first download the lib pcap libraries. And you can just do that with yum install lib pcap. And as you can see, I've already done that. And then you can just type in make and then make install. If you happen to be on an Ubuntu computer, you can just do sudo apt-get install ptunnel. And to run the server, all you have to do is type in ptunnel. And that's it. And now we're ready to hop over onto our laptop and install the client. For the client, you're going to use the same code that we used for the server. However, when I was compiling on my Windows computer, I had a little bit of problems with their make file, so I had to do it manually. But I'll be posting the Windows binary on the website, so you can just download that. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that we can ping the server computer, which is server.infuses.com. And although we got a reply, it's not guaranteed that it's going to work. Most hotspots do block ping traffic. But anyways, we'll do ptunnel.exe, and then we'll do -p and then the IP address of the server that's hosting the ping tunnel. And then we'll do -lp, which is a local listening port. And then we'll do -da, and then the IP address of a remote proxy. And since the server computer is running an SSH server, we can just use the same IP address. and then we'll do the -DEP, which is the destination port, and that's just SSH is running on port 22. So basically what the ping tunnel is doing is opening up a local port 8000, and any traffic that's directed to that port will be tunneled through the ping tunnel to the SSH server running on our server PC. And then we just push enter and the ping tunnel is set up. And now we can open up PuTTY, configure it to localhost, and then point to port 8000. And then we'll start a SSH tunnel on port 8001, and then we'll just log into the SSH server here. Alright, seems like everything's working. And then we can configure our browser to connect to the SSH tunnel, and then our internet traffic will be tunneled through the ping tunnel. And as you can see, I can connect to infinitysys.com.
That's it for this episode on bypassing hotspot access control.
Check us out on our new IRC at server.infinitysys.com.
Recording.
Wow. Keep rolling.
Wait.
Wow. Alright.
Yell.
Ready?
Yeah.
And that's another episode of Full Disclosure brought to you by InfinityExist.com. I'm not Pat. Today we're going to be doing bypassing hotspot access control. Alright, this is good. This is another. Ready? This is another episode of Full Disclosure brought to you by InfinityExist.com. I'm Knox, this is Pat, and today we're going to be doing another episode on bypassing hotspot access control. No, you're fine. I think it's kind of funny.
Do you guys want to come closer?
Yeah, we probably should. You want to stop?
So you guys tell me what you think.
This is another episode of Full Disclosure brought to you by InfinityExist.com. I'm Knox, and this is Patch, and today we're going to be doing bypassing hotspot access control.
And what we're using to do that is session stealing, DNS tunnel, and ping tunnel.
And the Starbucks back here. Let's do it.
Wait.
Alright, that's it for this episode of.
On my end.
Alright, let's do it. Alright. That's it for this episode from InfinityExist.com on bypassing wireless hotspot access control.
Check us out on our new IRC, that's server.infinitysys.com.
That's it for this episode on bypassing hotspot access control.
Check us out.
Keep it going. We still got red. This is another episode of Full Disclosure brought to you by InfinityExist.com. I'm Knox and this is Patch. Today we're going to be doing bypassing hotspot access control. Alright, again, ready? We gotta go. This is another episode of Full Disclosure brought to you by InfinityExist.com. I'm Knox, this is Patch, and today we're going over bypassing hotspot access control.
How we're going to do that, we're going to use session stealing, DNS tunnel, ping tunnel.
Let's go get the Starbucks.